And welcome into the Tuesday edition, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning. Joe, good morning. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Got that up 3-1 kind of feeling.
Did you stay up for the whole thing last night?
Sadly, not only that, but also then I couldn't help but I had to have we had to have the commentary of Chuck and Shaq and Kenny. And then it's like, yeah, but then the presser, I mean, what are they going to say? Is Draymond going to talk more trash? Is Jalen Green going to say again, Draymond Green can't do anything but talk, even though Jalen Green sat the entire fourth quarter while Draymond again showed why he's one of the greatest defensive players of all time. I mean, I had to wait and hear everybody talk,
So did you go to sleep at all?
No, it's an all night. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, I got some sleep.
That's good.
Thanks for asking.
Well, look, hey, my Miami Heat slept through the whole game yesterday. They got beat by 55 points in a playoff game. So really glad that they decided to, put together this nice streak at the end of the year to actually get in the playoffs rather than lose, which is what they should have done the last 2 years, and then get swept, including a 55-point loss to the Cavs last night. Good stuff.
Yeah, man. I mean, that was – I don't remember what the number was, but it had a chance to be the record, right?
Oh, yeah.
I was watching the end of it, whatever the record, 60-something?
I think so. We're getting close.
And it took a little bit of a late run there, which already apparently no one going to the games, and man, it's I mean, I guess that's a good example of sometimes, not that the playoffs should be less than 8 teams. I mean, they shouldn't do the plan thing, but sometimes you can make the playoffs and still no one can care. Boy, what an ugly. So that's the first time ever a team has lost back-to-back playoff games by 30 plus.
Glad they're making history down there.
It says here 58 points is the record.
58.
Happened twice.
They got close. 55.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Boy. I will say on the flip side of that, Boston Cleveland is the obvious, that's going to be the conference final. I'm not sure Cleveland isn't just going to wipe the floor with Boston, but I might be overreacting right now in the moment.
Well, they certainly, if the Miami Heat are any indication, Cleveland very good out there. We'll see what that means for the rest of the NBA playoffs there. Stanley Cup last night playoffs, Dallas taking a 3-2 lead in that series against Colorado with a 6-2 win. And, Joe, I think my call that Tampa was taking down Florida in the first round is about to be dead. They lose last night. They're down 3-1. And, frankly, they're just not beating that team 3 times in a row. So,
yeah, well, and the Avs, I mean, that series is wild. Talk about some serious swings in that one. Is that you had Avs Lightning? Is that right?
Yeah, it's looking real good right now.
You might be out of there. Meanwhile, my championship Leafs are – it's doing just fine.
Well, I hope they enjoy it because they may have the Florida Panthers coming up next. Hope they have a good time.
Boy, that could be great.
It really could.
That could be really good.
It really could. Ian, who'd you have winning the Cup?
You know what? I didn't actually make a pick.
You can do it now.
So, I don't know. Florida's looking good, but for some reason, I'm not going to pick Florida, even though I kind of want to.
It's too easy.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe Vegas?
That's a good call. Although they're in a dogfight right now with John Hines.
Yeah.
I think they're going to end up winning it.
Hines has something to say about that.
I think they're going to end up winning it, but
yeah, it'll be close. I don't know. Edmonton, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they made it back to the final.
LA had a chance to almost close them out the other night and just could not do it. So we'll see what happens on that front. That series tied up at 2. It's been a great Stanley Cup playoff to this point. The NBA playoffs, other than a couple series, have left things to be desired out there, but you know what? That typically is the case in the first round with the NBA playoffs. So we'll see how that goes as they get deeper into the playoffs there. We got a lot to get to on the program today. Steve Lehman from News Channel 5 will be with us at 8 o'clock. He was in Green Bay for the draft. He was at the press conference yesterday with Borgonzi and Brinker, so we'll get into all that with Steve Lehman a little bit later in the show. We will get into the Predators a little bit in the 7 o'clock hour. Still nothing on the Andrew Brunette, Barry Trotz front. So what do we think that means? And what's out there if the Predators decide to make a coaching change. We'll get into all that coming up at the 7 o'clock hour. But, Joe, I want to begin on Cam Ward. And as we sit here today with the draft in the rearview mirror, we went through yesterday some of the pieces around him on the offensive side of the ball and how the Titans have done of kind of setting him up for success in year one. Today, I just want to go over what are the expectations for Cam Ward. What's fair, what's not fair in year one for Cam Ward. I saw Kuharski throw this out there yesterday, and this is coming from betonline.com. And it's Cam Ward. The over-under for passing yards is 3,200.5. The over-under for passing touchdowns, 19.5. And the over-under for total interceptions thrown is 12.5. So that was the kind of the line that was set for Cam Ward out there. And, obviously when you start talking about rookie quarterbacks, and we've talked about this a lot, the two examples that you're going to come up with in recent memory are Jaden Daniels and CJ Stroud. Daniels last year threw for 3,500 yards. He completed 69% of his passes, 25 touchdowns, 9 picks. He threw for 7-4 an attempt. CJ Stroud in his rookie year threw for 4,100 yards, 23 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions, 63.9% completion percentage, and threw for 8.2 yards per attempt. So obviously those are two exceptional rookie seasons for a quarterback. So, Joe, as we sit here today, based on being the number 1 overall pick, the discussion we've had around Cam Ward, but also the situation he's walking into, what do you think is fair? What do you think is not fair in terms of what to expect from Cam Ward this year?
Well, I mean, statistically, if you're right around the over-unders on yards and touchdowns, I think that's pretty good with with this offense. Again, it's hard to know exactly what's around him, but I think those numbers would be pretty good. Look, the Titans, I think, are going to lose more than they win this year. And there's probably going to be some fourth quarters where Cam Ward is, picking up some empty calories behind, thrown against soft zone coverage. So, sometimes bad teams can have good quarterback numbers. Even bad offenses can have decent passing numbers because the team's bad. But I think those numbers are good if you're under. And then how about, so slightly over on those numbers, right around under the on the picks. I mean, I think asking a rookie to throw single-digit picks is asking a lot. I mean, if he's right around there, I think that's pretty good because, again, it's the same thing. If you're behind and you're one-dimensional and you're predictable, that also means, there's going to be safeties waiting to bait you and jump some routes, and, the pass rush is going to be coming. And, again, we don't know what his left tackle is going to be like. So I think statistically those things are fine. But, I mean, I think the fair expectation is, to have some really good performances and understand that there's going to be some bad ones, even like CJ Stroud in that rookie year in particular. I don't remember Jaden Daniels last year being much other than good all the time. I'm sure there were a couple off weeks. I just don't remember, but CJ Stroud definitely had some ups and downs, even though overall it was a tremendous success. I mean, like, terrible game losing to Bryce Young, that rookie year. But I mean, with this team, I just don't see this team being anything like those two that we talk about in terms of a turnaround. So can you win a few games? Can you make some big plays in the fourth quarter? I wouldn't have been able to tell you Jaden Daniels' numbers last year, Robby, but I could tell you the huge plays he made, like to beat Philly and obviously like the Bears Hail Mary, but like he was clutch in the fourth quarter. Can Cam Ward show some of that and win some games, even if it only contributes to like a 5-12 season? I think that's what is most important to me.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think, up and down from him in his rookie year. Look, I understand that Stroud and Daniels kind of reset the market for what people want from their rookie quarterbacks over the last couple of years. Can something like that be done with this Titans roster? I don't know. I kind of have my doubts about that. Like, I still think that the roster as a whole is a long way away from being in a place where you're a competitive football team. So I look specifically on offense right now. Like, there's a lot. I said it yesterday. There's a lot that has to go right for them offensively. You know, the new offensive line additions that they've made. Can they hold up? Can they be healthy? And frankly, if they are healthy, you brought it up at left tackle. Like, how good's Dan Moore? I don't know. Like, that's going to be a big part of the way this season goes. Can he and Ridley get on the same page early in the year? What does Tyler Lockett still have left on the table? And can you get anything out of these rookie receivers to start? Like, you know, I kind of have similar expectations for them in terms of, you know, I think it's going to take a while for the rookie receivers to come in and to be able to make a huge impact. Like, I know AJ Brown walked in here and was basically impactful from day one, and maybe that does happen with a couple of these guys. But I just think you're talking about 2 fourth-round receivers. Like, what's that going to look like in terms of how quickly they're able to step in and be impactful players? I mean, they may have to, right? Like, based on where their receiving room is right now, they're going to have to play, and they're going to have to get some meaningful snaps out there. But how effective are they going to be in doing that? Like, my expectation for Cam Ward is, like, you need to be able throughout the course of the season to show flashes of why you were the number one overall pick. I don't expect him to go out there and win 10 games this year. I don't expect him to go out there and throw for 4,500 yards or anything like that. Like, you know, I think it's going to be a slow build with Cam Ward. So that's where I'm at. I think the most interesting thing for him is with the conditions around you right now, how good are you at protecting the football early? I mean, that's what absolutely killed the Titans last year is they could not protect the football at that position. It's not going to be perfect from him. You know, we brought up the over-under in terms of the interception totals at 12.5 there. So that's a big number in terms of the over-under for interceptions. How good can you protect the football if you're Cam Ward in year one? That's what's going to be interesting for me to see.
Yeah, I mean, last year, Caleb Williams and Drake May are much higher regarded quarterbacks, rookie quarterbacks than Cam Ward is. Caleb Williams, everybody in Chicago feels good about Caleb Williams. They put a lot around him as a rookie. They didn't win much. Now, he had some very good games, and, you know, that's the thing. I mean, you saw enough from him to be like, okay, yeah, you can see it, right? I mean, they feel good about Drake May. What did he do? He didn't do much at all.
Right.
They didn't do much at all. They're feeling great in New England right now because they've done a lot to help him. You saw enough. So, I mean, you know, really, it's like you don't want to be at the end of the next year and be like, what is going? Is this guy a fraud? I mean, if you see enough of the talent out there, then again, this is from a lesser prospect than those guys. And, you know, you should be able to feel good going into year two, just like they do in Chicago, New England.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. We're off and running today here on the program. Throwing it out there to you. What's fair? What's not fair in terms of expectations for Cam Ward heading into year one? We'll take your thoughts on that. We'll get to some NFL news that could potentially affect Titans fans as well coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan tonight as the Sounds take on Gwinnett. Pre-game beginning at 5:50. First pitch at 6:05. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. Sounds baseball on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure. Robby and Rexrode here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Joe, some breaking news in the NFL. George Kittle, beloved Nashvilleian here, has signed a 4-year, $76.4 million contract extension that includes $40 million that is guaranteed. He told Bussin' with the Boys this. So Taylor Lewan and Will Compton breaking the news that George Kittle has signed a 4-year extension with the San Francisco 49ers. And now, the Schefters of the world are all over it as well. But Bussin' with the Boys, breaking the news, Joe, that George Kittle staying in San Francisco and he signed an extension. So there goes the eventual – could he play for the Titans dream there if you're a Titans fan?
Yeah, they got Gunnar Helm.
It's true.
Big fat J journalism there by Bussin' with the Boys. Good job. Yeah. So are they're like independent now? Is that they got their
I
own?
Guess so, yeah.
Got away from Portnoy.
I guess. I don't know. I don't know exactly what they're doing, but I think so.
Well, yeah, it was a nice little thought while it lasted. To have Kittle here playing for the Titans. It's interesting, the Niners are. I mean, look, I don't blame him. I mean, although he has been hurt some, he's a great player, but they've kind of come up on so many of these deals, and they're kind of in between now. And how good are they going to be this year?
I don't know. Like they're still a lot of their key players are on the older side of things here,
Yeah.
And now Deebo Samuel's gone. Hey, look, Deebo Samuel hasn't been great the last few years, and injuries have been a part of that. But they're certainly not the same. Like, you don't get terrified playing them the way you used to a couple years ago, where you just looked at their roster and you're like, there's no weakness. Like, you couldn't find a weakness with their team a few years ago.
Yeah, they're so overwhelming, up front on defense. I mean, that's where. And obviously, they've had some turnover at linebacker and things like that. But look, man, great player, and I still think they're a factor. There's some kind of a factor in the NFC.
Yeah, we're going to find out a lot about Brock Purdy. Like, I'm assuming they're going to get this deal done at some point here with Brock Purdy, and I think we're going to start to find out exactly what he is, because I think he's a good player. I think he's a good quarterback. I also recognize that the situation around him has been incredibly, incredibly good for the majority of his career. And now we're going to see. Like, I think they're starting to, roster-wise, kind of fall the other way. So we'll see if he can elevate them and Kyle Shanahan and all that, what that looks like. But, if you're a Titans fan out there and you were hoping that contract talks were falling apart between George Kittle and the Niners and that George Kittle will want to come home and play for the Titans, doesn't look like it's going to happen.
To say that sound you hear is the heartbreaking of Philip Forsberg.
Yeah, Forsberg is going to be very upset about all this. So
he'll still be pounding the glass, pounded beers, screaming for Phil.
You'll still find George Kittle around quite frequently. Chris on the text line throwing this question out there, Joe. If Cam Ward fails next year, can we finally put blame on the head coach? This is from Chris on the text line. I'm telling you, if Cam Ward fails in year one, then the blame will definitely be put on the head coach, and he will probably not be here after that.
So, but you got to define fails. First of all, I mean, I don't think that Brian Callahan has skated through the last year completely unscathed, has he?
No.
I mean,
I said that they should fire him after last year, but that was just me.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're quite a hater. Yeah, so there's plenty of blame going to Callahan on this program, but yeah, what has failed? I mean, again, Drake May, I feel good about him. I think he's going to be good. There isn't a lot from last year. I mean, there's some good play. If you watched him play, you could see it, right? But did he fail? I would say he did. Did Drake May fail last year? I think he did. Now, granted, they did fire the coach, but that was a weird, that whole thing with Mayo and Kraft. And I mean,
very strange,
very weird. lot of stuff that's weird that's kind of stemming from the New England Patriots organization and sprawling outward into the football world. But that's the hard thing. Like, what does that mean? Like, if you think like a losing record has failed, then I think you're going to be highly disappointed this year.
I got news for you.
Yeah. I mean, if he shows nothing, yeah, well, I mean, that's a problem. If he shows nothing, yeah, I mean, you can go to Callahan if you want. And also, let's talk about, hey, remember that offer from the Giants?
Yeah.
Like, but to me, it would have to be just a brutally bad season, to feel like that. I'll be really surprised if there isn't something to build on here.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's got, we've talked about this through the draft process with him. Like, is he the cleanest number one pick prospect of all time? Of course not. Like, there's a lot that you can look at with his game and poke holes in. I think pretty much everybody agreed that he is like a first round caliber quarterback, right? Like, he's a first round caliber quarterback, with the exception of apparently one general manager in the NFL who told Schefter that he didn't have a first round grade on any quarterback. So I think most people believe that that's what he is. So when you've got a general consensus of you having first round talent, like, you should show some things throughout the course of a year. And look, while the Titans roster is not in a good spot, I do think that there's enough on the offensive side right now, again, provided that health is there and that things go reasonably well from a development standpoint. Like, there's enough there where you shouldn't just not be able to show anything. Like, the biggest thing is going to be the line, right? Like, how much have they improved their offensive line? If they've improved their offensive line significantly to the point where you're not just totally running for your life every time you drop back to pass, like they have been for basically the last 3 years back there, then he's going to have some games where he plays well. He's going to have some games where you look at it and you say, all right, I can see what the Titans see from him there. And frankly, the bottom line is, as a rookie, he's probably going to have some horrible games this year. Like, there's going to be both. Can the good at the end of the year outweigh the bad in terms of, does he show you enough as the year goes on where you feel good about the direction that he's headed? Number one, I think that says a lot about the coach and what the future of that's going to look like. And number two, like, his development as a player, like how much, one of the things he talks about, and he talked about it the other day, his ability to process things, his ability to see things. That's a large portion of what playing quarterback is seeing and processing information and being able to react in real time. Can he handle that at the NFL level? And how much better with that does he get from the start of the year to the end of the year? Physically, he's got the ability to do those things.
Right. Again, like, feeling good about someone. Let's, he's gonna make some throws. There's no question that are just dazzling. He'll make dazzling throws. Yep. He'll make some, and I'm sure he'll have some big games. But again, feeling good about a quarterback after 1 year. What was the feeling about Will Levis on the strength of the 1 day of 4 touchdowns, and especially one of those throws was insane.
Yep.
Some other good, some bad, some good, but everybody felt pretty good, right? Now, I know it's a little different when you're talking about pick 1, round 1, but it doesn't take a lot, in my opinion, to have hope. Well, I mean, your guy, Marcus Mariota, I mean,
great player.
Yeah, but I mean, like, even especially after year 2, like, if Cam Ward has those numbers and they have basically to the point where they're at the end of the year playing for the division championship, right? In year 2, at that point, everybody's going to be thrilled,
sure,
right?
Yeah. Well, and the bottom line,
still won't know.
And the bottom line is also, like, if things don't go well this year with Cam Ward, then the blame is going to totally go on Brian Callahan. Like, that's just the natural order of things. He will get blamed for that first. And then the Titans fans are going to want him out. And then if they fire him, you're going to bring in a new head coach. And then you start to evaluate Cam Ward. But the bottom line is, like, if things don't go well this year, Callahan is absolutely going to be the one that gets the brunt of that blame.
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah. It's like a one, like, can you get enough out of him in this first year to show that you are, well, what you were supposed to be when you were hired?
Yeah. 615-737-1025, our phone number. More your thoughts to get to on the Cam Ward front. Plus, what do we make of the job that Mike Borgonzi, Chad Brinker have done to this point and in their portion of this tenure? We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
You guys have talked patience and discipline so much. Is there ever a moment through this thing with Amy where you're saying, hey, if Femi has played 10 games at this position, Winston's coming off an injury, a lot of these guys are we have really good forecasts on, but it's not like we're dropping people into the roster who are going to transform this thing in 5 minutes.
Yeah, I've had a lot of conversations with Amy since January, and I'll just say this: Amy's fully on board with the plan, and she wants to become one of the elite franchises of the league. She believes in what we're doing. I really appreciate her and her support, and how she's really empowered us to do our jobs. I mean, I'm speaking on her behalf right now. We hired Mike to lead that process, particularly building this football team. I think she really believes in what we're doing, and we want to make her proud. So we're working hard to do that.
That's Chad Brinker yesterday with a press conference alongside Mike Borgonzi there with the Titans. Joe, Brinker making it sound like Amy Adams-Strunk is on board with the plan, and maybe patience is now the new virtue with the Tennessee Titans. I guess I'll again believe that when I see it at the end of the year. If they go 5-12 and she doesn't fire someone, I guess we'll see what happens on that front. But what did you make of that answer from Chad Brinker?
Yeah, patience right now for sure being displayed because everyone wins the draft, and so now we're figuring out ways that the Titans have won the draft, and then they're going to win the schedule reveal.
Looking forward to that.
Probably, yeah, May 14th, by the way. They'll probably have the most awesome. I mean, they got a streak here. Although I don't know if you can go to the well again on their plan, on their idea for the schedule reveal. Though 2 years ago that was amazing, and then it's easy to be patient during a mini camp and all the things and all the preseason stuff, and everybody's optimistic and excited, and then we'll find out actually about patience, right around December. But yeah, interesting. It's a lot of interesting stuff, different stuff. I mean, when it comes down to it, what really matters here, like, did they pick good football players? Can they build a good football team? But boy, just a lot of interesting stuff. We talked a little bit yesterday. I guess some people were mad that they brought scouts out this weekend to talk.
Yeah,
I don't hate that. If that would have been the last word on the draft, then that's one thing. But then they come out and they have this presser yesterday, which I've never seen before, on Monday after the whole thing. And of course, it's Brinker, really mostly Brinker talking in this thing, which again, that's just the whole thing it's a setup like I've never seen before, but maybe it's just, again, all these cooks in the kitchen and who's doing what. Maybe they're just going to make a delicious souffle for everybody.
Well, we're going to find out. I mean, look, the question is, what do we think of what Borgonzi and Brinker have done so far? It's honestly tough to answer because we've not seen them step foot on the field yet. So that's ultimately going to be the most important thing. It is, you can see kind of a shift in mentality of what they have been doing around here, which is, number one, for the most part, go look at their free agent signings and look at some of the moves they made. I mean, look, even bringing in Tyler Lockett last week, they have put a pretty heavy emphasis on bringing in players who have a track record of staying healthy, right? Like they have obviously, that has been a point of emphasis for them this offseason, which is part of what made like the Winston pick in the third round so interesting. It was because that is not the case with him. Now, look, I've said this before. You're never going to universally stay away from players in the world of NFL football that have injury history. I mean, if you're doing that, you're probably not going to put together a very good team because there are a lot of guys around the league who have had injuries before that have come back and have played well. But that's clearly been something that has been important to them in terms of the way they're trying to structure their team. And look, like from the moment they put this setup together with Chad Brinker leading the charge, and this was even before they hired Borgonzi, which eventually, of course, they did. He's been basically preaching patience. And we talked about that with PK several times throughout the offseason here. Like, they're taking the patient approach. And frankly, that may end up being the best thing for them, like trying to slow build this thing. Until I see the owner actually go along with this through until I see her sit through a season that's not good and go along with this and allow time to build, I'm going to remain skeptical that she's going to stick with this plan, Joe, because frankly, she's just been all over the place the last 3 years. And one of the things we talked about the day they fired Rand Carthon, and again, to be clear, I was totally for that move. I thought Rand Carthon was in over his head and they needed to make a move. But the day they fired him, I was like, well, okay. So we're just going to do this again next year. They're going to fire Brian Callahan after next year. Like I still, it's one thing to preach patience here in April, but when you sit through it and when you go through another season that right now, based on what they've got on paper, probably isn't going to be all that good. I'm looking at their over/under win total right now, Joe, from FanDuel Sportsbook. It's 5.5. Like you're talking about a not very good team heading into this year. Can they sit through it? And is this process allowed to be played out the way the Brinker seems to think it will be?
Yeah. Look, and it's obviously it's a product, this is about the product. If we're going, if you talk about impressions, obviously we've had some early impressions. I mean, it's not early anymore, but it's the first few months still of Borgonzi. And my impressions of him in terms of as he talks through picks and things like that are positive. I think he does a good job of explaining things. He seems to, to have a good feel. Obviously, he comes from successful organization, but plenty of people come from successful organizations that fail. Rand Carthon just did. Now, if we're going on impressions of, publicly of how things are being explained, which is really what we have to go on, other than just we'll see how these things all work out, these decisions. Look, Brian Callahan continues to be, like the night Cam Ward was drafted, it was like, thank goodness Brian Callahan was there because he really gave an insightful bunch of answers about why they liked him. I mean, Brian Callahan continues to be a great press conference coach, but it's on the product on the field this year is critical for him. Some stuff from Brinker. Yeah. Like, let me read it, and I know some of this is just cliche football guy stuff, but it's like, Glennon asks about broad characteristics. And he says, I think over time, as this unfolds, you might be able to draft them for us ahead of time because you're going to see, oh, that looks like a Titan. There's definitely a D8A we're looking for in our players, and I think everybody wants that. Like, what does that mean? Okay, because they're good at football, like they're super tough. Are they like cyborgs? I mean, I just like some of the whole character thing. Like every single team talks about that stuff. Every single team talks about the same stuff.
Yep.
Right. Now you're like, can you win? Can you figure out a way to win or lose your job? Another thing interesting. Did Brinker's talking about during the draft process yesterday, how he like keeps getting pulled away from stuff like during the draft. Like, what do we, Hey, Chad, we're not sure about our lighting in the, in the coach's meeting room. Do you want like soft lights or like, what do we do? It's a security. We got a security meeting here, Chad. I know it's the draft. It's the most important time of the year where everybody's future is being decided right now. And you like whether you're going to be employed, I'm going to be employed, all of us will be employed, the football players you pick. But we got to really have a meeting here about, like the lunch menu during camp. Like, what are we talking about here?
Chad, we got to go to Lowe's. There's some new paint that we're trying to get, and we don't really know exactly what color. So can you come with us? We're going to the paint aisle over there.
Like, it's so. The whole thing is so weird. And again, I understand, he's technically in charge of all the other departments, right? But like, what would pull you away from the draft?
I don't know. I don't know. It's a good question. I'd love to know.
It's the whole thing is weird, and it's just hard not to be skeptical, because again, all these missteps that they've had just recently he was a part of, and then so I look, to me that is the biggest reason for skepticism. I mean, Borgonzi comes in and again seems like a sharp guy, and we're going to see about his eye for players. I mean, I'm assuming that's what we're seeing here. That's another thing, right? Is like, I mean, Chad makes it, he again made it clear, this is Mike was in charge, all this stuff. But then you have this presser, like where he dominates the presser yesterday. And it's like, I don't know, like have the Titans in the past ever had? Did Steve ever do that for the Titans? You know, like Floyd, have a seat. I'm gonna sit here and bloviate for again. It's just press conference stuff, but it makes it so confusing at times.
It is 615-737-1025. Our phone number. Your thoughts on Chad Brinker, Mike Borgonzi, and the job that you think they've done to this point. Where do you think this thing is headed with their leadership? We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game.
Chad, how did you help Mike through that process?
Yeah. Obviously, Mike led this entire process, and that's why we hired Mike to lead the draft, free agency, building the roster, and I have complete trust in him. And how I helped. There's a lot of other people in this building that I gotta care for and be there, and other departments that got to run. So one of the nice things about this setup was that while they were in the draft room, there were times where I had to get pulled away for various meetings for an hour or two, and I would come back, and Mike would say, "Hey, we looked at these 5 players, but you really need to focus on these 3." So it really helped my workload to be able to know what to focus on and have the full trust in Mike that I believe in him, and he knows what he's a really good evaluator. And the humility that he has is just tremendous. And it helped me still be involved in the process. But ultimately, my trust is in Mike. I mean, I think he's outstanding, and I'm glad we have him.
That was the Titans yesterday. Chad Brinker, Mike Borgonzi at his post-draft press conference there, which again, Joe, I think you're right. I don't know that I've really seen that. Like the Monday after a draft. It was interesting.
Yeah.
I kind of like it.
Said, yeah, I think that's good. Now, someone did on the text line, and I'm on the text line, which I'm very excited about.
That's good.
Got the text line working for me. Maybe that's not good for the show. Someone will trigger me, but we'll soldier on. But someone was like, "Well, at least they're talking, to us, unlike before with Rand." But I mean, the draft last year, folks, Rand Carthon talked. I mean, everybody has to talk in the NFL around the draft. So now I will agree that at other times Rand needed to be available and wasn't. So we'll see how that goes. But we haven't really tested that out with like Borgonzi, I guess, or Brinker. But I guess I'd prefer Borgonzi.
I would agree.
I got to know what these meetings are. I got oh man, we're talking about these players. Hold on, guys. I got to go. We got a really important meeting here. We got a new vendor.
Is it about the stadium? Like, is he doing stuff with that?
I mean, that would be dumb too.
I agree.
Bert Nihill.
I'm trying to figure something out here.
I don't know
where he's going.
Is he like, okay, guys, let me, I got to go get my bucket and fill it up and see if Kuharski can carry this thing. Okay. I mean, I don't know.
Good call.
Yeah, thank you. I hope you're listening, PK. Might be too early for PK to hear that. But it's just, I mean, like what? Like seriously, I don't want to like overreact to something that ultimately probably doesn't mean a lot, but it really is, if you think about it, kind of weird, right?
I guess when you got 1,000 people in your front office, though, I mean, you can leave for a little while. I mean, they've got enough people in there to pick up the slack, I guess.
Yeah, but it's also like we're looking at these 3 guys. Okay, so are you so is it like, okay, we're down to these 3, so who, Chad? Or is it just like, by the way, this is what we're doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's his role there once he gets back from the meeting about how they're changing vending machines from Coke to Pepsi? Like what is he like? Then what's his role when they tell him about the 3 guys?
Because that's the other thing. Like, he's talked about how, in the immediate aftermath of the firing of Carthon, Chad Brinker was in charge, right? Like Chad Brinker was moving ahead as, and we called it basically the football czar of the Titans. And basically ever since then, Joe, ever since he's hired Borgonzi, he has like gone out of his way to talk about how like Borgonzi is running personnel decisions over there. So it's like, all right, well, what is it? Like, what exactly are you guys doing with the way that you've got this thing set up over there? I'll say this again, right now, everything's easy to point to and be positive about in April, right? Like they've, a lot of people like their draft. I think it was Mike Renner gave them like an A+ on their draft yesterday, which again, that gets into an entire conversation about how in the world are you guys grading drafts when they've not played a single down of football yet in the NFL, but that's a conversation for a different day. So, it's easy to be positive right now. What's it going to look like this year? That's what it boils down to. Like, and how the fan base with the new quarterback coming in, I think you buy yourself some time because everybody's going to be focused on the number 1 overall pick at quarterback and how does he play? How does he develop? So the wins and losses fans probably don't care as much about that this year because you know where the team is and you know where they're coming from. But I still go back to ownership. Like, we have seen this with her. She was all in on Vrabel until she wasn't. She was all in on Rand Carthon and Will Levis and all that until she wasn't. And it did not take very long for her to switch on those ideas. So right now, according to Brinker, she's all in on being patient and trying to be one of the elite franchises in the league, and having the patience to go through maybe some pain to get there. When does the point arrive, Joe, where she's not anymore? Because that's been the trend lately.
Yeah. And look, if she gets out on somebody, there are plenty of possibilities.
Yeah.
Like we just saw Carthon out, Brinker elevated. So Brinker's asked about Dave Ziegler and Reggie McKenzie. Interesting comment he had yesterday.
Yeah, you can never have enough good people. And if, this structure works when you have the right people. Reggie and I work together up in Green Bay. I think you all met Reggie. I mean, how can you not like Reggie? Reggie's he's the best, tremendous evaluator, and all he cares about the team. He cares about winning. Just really good as a mentor for young scouts too. And then Dave, I've known for a long time in this league, and I know Mike and Dave have been good friends for a long time. And Dave has done a lot of good things in this league over the years. And he's another guy. He's from Ohio. Grew up in Cleveland. I'm from Ohio. We had a lot of familiar connections, and it just clicks. I don't really know how to explain it. It's just working. And I think it's because it's, I talk about it a lot, high impact, low ego. That's what we want. We want people with low ego, but we expect, you got to perform when you're in this business. And we know how hard it can be. So, I thought it worked really well. Go ahead, Mike.
And then Mike said something for a minute. Yeah. I mean, like I'm brought back to like Rand Carthon is the greatest human being in the history of the earth.
I was telling Ian before the show started, like I would probably advise them to have Brinker talk less. Would probably be the way I would go about it. Like I just feel he kind of feels like a snake oil salesman to me. Like he's just blowing smoke constantly, and it's hard for me to take a lot of that seriously. I mean, I thought exactly what you said. I think back to comments Joey made last year about Carthon and how he was so smart and how he was the greatest thing ever. And now all of a sudden, a year later, we're talking about all this stuff again. Like if I'm a Titans fan, like I'm like, okay, man, it's exhausting.
Right. And it's just, again, it's like you're sort of left with this sort of, so who, and I know like lots of franchises are not out there and say, hey guys, this is final say. This is how we do it. Here's how. But you talk through all this stuff, and it really is like, man, how does this work? I mean, if they all love each other and they're all amazing people, that's great, But like, it just Brinker pulled away from a meeting, and then he comes back, and then and this guy and that guy, it's again what matters. Let's see the product next year.
Yeah.
And if it looks good, then we're going to go back and say, hey, look at this structure here. NFL, if you can figure out this structure somehow with like a big map, with a chart, then you should copy it. But it's just, it seems a little convoluted.
It does. Brandon on YouTube says, the Titans are insecure and are constantly posturing, always trying to explain how great the new wheel they invented is. It's from Brandon on YouTube. I think that sums it up pretty nicely. 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. We'll take more of your thoughts on the Titans. We will get back into this conversation coming up later in the 7 o'clock hour. Coming up next, we'll get into the Predators. We've not heard anything to this point on the future of Andrew Brunette. We have not heard from Predators general manager Barry Trotz after the end of the season. What does it all mean? We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning, live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Joe, we have not yet heard from Predators general manager Barry Trotz to close out the season. Now, he was originally supposed to have a press conference last week, and then that didn't happen. So we had a lot of stuff going on last week with the NFL draft, obviously, so we did not have a ton of time to get to the developments with the Predators last week, but we have still not heard from Barry Trotz after the season when he was originally supposed to speak last week. So as we know, the future of Andrew Brunette is unclear. As of Andrew Brunette's press conference last week, he did not know whether or not he was going to be back as head coach, and we talked about that. So yesterday, Mike Sullivan gets fired, or I guess parted ways is the way they put it, with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and he's a 2-time Stanley Cup winning head coach that is now out there and available. What's going to happen with Rick Tocchet and his situation with Vancouver? I mean, there could be some intriguing names that are out there as far as coaches are concerned. So, Joe, as we sit here today, what's your read on this situation, knowing that Trotz was supposed to speak last week, he did not speak, and to this point, we have not heard when that will be happening as it relates to the future of Andrew Brunette?
Have I gotten a prediction wrong on this show before? I can't recall.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think I'm 100%. So, as that is the case, I got to say, I'm about 58-42 that he's going to fire Andrew Brunette.
58-42? Okay.
58-42. I was probably, I don't know if I was in the 90s. I know that sometimes we say these numbers and then I forget, but I was high the other way. That pretty obvious, some of the stuff Trotz saying late in the year. And then again, like Jared did a good job at least once of being like, okay, so he's coming back for sure. No. But still, like the overall commentary from Trotz, and there's quite a bit of it, to his credit, was, yeah, Brunette's coming back. And I feel the other way now. I just, like you pointed out, Robby, there was stuff last week. So like you could make the case if you're in the Preds organization to, wait and not do stuff around the NFL draft. But that's never really, the Preds and Titans have had plenty of big news items bumping up against each other. And it's just this delay. It's how could you not think that this means that he's really mulling over this decision, and that probably some new information since he said those things late in the year has given him pause.
I would agree. I mean, to me, it seems pretty clear that both the comments that were made publicly at the end of the season press conference, and we talked about those with Stamkos and Marchessault, if those were made publicly, what was said behind closed doors? What did Barry Trotz and Steven Stamkos discuss in the end of season meetings? What did Jonathan Marchessault bring up with Barry Trotz at the end of season meetings, the exit meetings, as it relates to Brunette? Look, I can't say for sure that Brunette's going to be gone, but it does kind of feel that way, right? Like, to get all the way to the end of this, to delay it as long as they have, and then for them to come back at some point later this week and just be like, yeah, Andrew Brunette's our head coach. Like, it's going to be, all right, well, like, it seems like this was a pretty lengthy discussion and decision on y'all's part. Like, what really led into all this? Now, I'm not saying it can't happen, but the longer this goes on, the more it makes me think that Andrew Brunette may not be coming back as head coach next year. So then the question becomes, like, if that's the case, what do you do? How attractive is your job? Like, could a Mike Sullivan actually come here? Like, I saw some thoughts out there yesterday that with, the TV deals coming in and the caps going up and all that stuff, like, he could reset the coaching market in terms of the money that he makes. So does that interest you if you're the Predators going that route? Like, there's a lot that goes with that, but just strictly on the Brunette front, like, clearly, I think just reading the tea leaves here, Joe, the exit meetings were pretty interesting here with the Predators, and I think that is part of that's the reason why we've not seen a decision made to this point.
Hey guys, welcome to the presser. What? No. Oh yeah, of course Burnett's coming back. Now Chad Brinker and I got pulled away for a meeting to what we're going to name the Major League Baseball team if we get one. So no, sorry.
Met Chad at the Lowe's.
We had some meetings. Yeah. Brinker and I both really love going to Home Depot. Okay. Yeah. No, it's
Is that an off-white? What kind of you think that's a good color?
Eggshell white. Really like that one. Yeah, it would be. I mean, it's possible, of course. It's not 99-1. I'm 58-42. And yeah, that's right, Robert. I'm 58-42. I'm not going to be 60-40. I'm 58-42. So you're going to have to deal with it. But yeah, look, Sullivan. I mean, I think some of this that has to also be part of the equation too. Okay, then what's your answer if you're going to do this?
Yeah.
And Sullivan to me would be pretty big time in terms of a hire. I think Rick Tocchet, we've talked about that quite a bit too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a thing. And as you've said several times, Robby, it's, look, these veterans, these guys should be able to deal with any credible coach you put in front of them, but someone who has succeeded and has that, has that time put in and a success and the skins on the wall with veteran teams, I do think that's attractive.
Well, and beyond, like, I've always said throughout this process, the exit meetings were going to be important, and I think they are. I also don't think they can be everything, right? Like, I think as you evaluate this, that's kind of the one silver lining here of this season is they've been out of it for a long time. And like Barry Trotz should have had an opportunity to do a lot of this evaluation as the season goes on, right? Like it's no secret that they were going to miss the playoffs and this season was going to be disappointing. We've known that since basically December. Like it's been a long time that they've been dealing with this. So, another question I would have is, Sullivan is out there and we've already got some thoughts on the text line of the Predators should go get Mike Sullivan. I like Mike Sullivan. I think he's a really good coach. Here's another thing. Like, what happens after this first round? Like, does some team out there get crazy and fire somebody? I don't think this is going to happen. I know, but I know some Colorado fans that are just irate at Jared Bednar and think that if they lose this series to Dallas, that Joe Sakic should fire him and they should move on. Now, I think that would be incredibly stupid, and I don't expect that to happen. But like we see this sometimes, Joe. Sometimes teams get dumb and they fire their coach. And if somebody like that became available, if I'm the Predators, I mean, I'd be trying to hop all over that. So I wonder how long is Trotz willing to kind of wait through this process here.
Yeah, I mean that's that's the thing. First of all, like the waiting on Brunette has to be over like Thursday. Right? How about Thursday? Can we set that deadline? Don't do the Friday news dump. And also preferably, like let it be something that we can talk about on our show this week. But seriously, like that's got to happen this week. And then you can. But the thing is, like that's an interesting one. I hadn't thought about that. That's wild.
I don't think that's going to happen. Just to be clear.
But you probably. I mean, look, if you want to go after Mike Sullivan, I would think that you'd want to get started and you got to get aggressive, right?
Yeah,
going after Mike Sullivan. And we briefly touched on this yesterday, but then you get into. If you're Mike Sullivan, you're looking at this team. Does this excite you? Do you like? There are some young guys coming up. There's a lot of draft capital. There's a bunch of veterans who were extremely underwhelming, and there's a goalie starting his contract who just had the worst year of his career by far. And even though everybody's making excuses for him, it has to be concerning.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. What do you make of the lack of news that we've heard from the Predators and Barry Trotz to this point on the future of Andrew Brunette? What does it all mean? And what would you like to see the Predators do? We'll take your thoughts on that. 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. It's time for the 4th annual 615 Open Charity Golf Tournament benefiting Folds of Honor, presented by Gary Force Acura. Coming up at Hermitage Golf Course on Thursday, May 29th. You can sign up to play or sponsor at 615open.com. Robby and Rexrode here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game, taking your thoughts on the Predators. And we have not heard anything on the Andrew Burnett front as of yet from the Nashville Predators. What do you make of that, and where would you like to see this go? Bill on the text line, Joe, says, we went through this silence from Trotz 2 years ago when the jury was still out on John Hines. It does not bode well for Bruno. Sullivan, Bilesma, and even Laviolette would be upgrades, although I know that Laviolette is the longest of all shots. This is from Billy on the text line. You know, as far as the first part of that text, this was it's not as long, right? So, you know, Barry Trotz and David Poyle and John Hines all did a press conference together at the end of that season. And it was, I remember it because it was kind of weird. We were asking Barry Trotz about John Hines' job while John Hines is sitting 6 feet away from him at a table up there. So that was,
oh, hey, John,
that was interesting. But, you know, time passed after that. A few weeks went by after that before there was an actual decision that was made. But it does, you know, kind of in some ways, Joe, feel similar to that. It doesn't mean it's guaranteed to have the same outcome, but it does feel a little similar to that. I actually thought about that yesterday.
Yeah, and look, at this point, now that we're into this week, if you're Andrew Burnett, I think at this point, figuratively speaking, you're twisting in the wind.
Yeah,
you gotta come on and make a decision here, and we've talked about the other people he could possibly hire and all that stuff, and again, Sullivan's available now. If you're going to do something, you know, then you really need to expedite the process and let him and his coaches and their families, everybody know what the deal is. You're going to be living in Nashville next year, folks. Kids going to school in Nashville next year, or not. And of course, I was going to say, you know, even if he does come back, he probably is on the hot seat. He probably is a potential early season hire, but for these, I guess the assistant coaches, you know, with kids, I guess, you know, in a lot of cases you would be able to stay through the whole year. But right now, everyone's lives are on hold waiting for this. And I understand that a few people having to move and things like that, and that's the name of the game. That's the life of a coach. But I think at this point, it's been long enough.
Well, then the question becomes, you know, let's say they do move on from Andrew Burnett. How attractive is this job? I mean, right now there are 7 jobs open in the league. Anaheim is open. Boston is open. Chicago is open. The Rangers are open. Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, obviously, who just moved on from Sullivan, and then Seattle Kraken. Now, what happens with Vancouver? Does that job become open if Rick Tocchet decides to move on at that front? But there are already 7 jobs open. And how attractive is the Predators? Obviously you can take Pittsburgh out of it, but if you're Mike Sullivan and you're looking at the Predators, are they more attractive than Anaheim? Anaheim got a pretty good young core. They got some pretty good players that they put together. Boston, an original 6 team. It's a whole lot of winning over the past couple of decades. Do you want to go there? Chicago's got Connor Bedard. The Rangers, Madison Square Garden. There's Philadelphia with Michkov and some of the young players they've got. I'm just saying, if you want to get Mike Sullivan, there's going to be some competition for Mike Sullivan out there. And where exactly do the Predators fall in line in terms of the attractiveness of their job and what that looks like? So if you're Barry Trotz and you are trying to move and you are going to move on from Andrew Burnett, it's going to be a pretty competitive market, I think, in terms of some of these coaches out there that of the jobs that are available at the moment.
Does he like country music?
I don't know.
No, but and you mentioned the Bruins. I mean, he's from there.
Yeah,
has a history there with their. I mean, yeah. So I mean, that's you got tough competition. And look, the reality of the situation with the Preds is also, it's early. It's one bad year, and you could see how it could happen. And if you want, you can really blame the coaching. But if you're a coach looking at this job, are you not also a little bit skeptical about Barry Trotz? You're like, I love Barry Trotz as a coach. He's a Hall of Fame coach in my profession. Love the guy. Everybody loves the guy. But is he a good GM? Are we looking at the early stages of a strong general managership, or is this just going to be like, yeah, you know what, this actually isn't for him?
It's a fair question
because you don't want to go to that job if that's what you think.
It's a fair question. I got one texter that says, I think it's BS. If Trotz has made his mind up, then say so. But if you're not firing Brunette because you don't have another coach, it's incompetent because you have made that decision. He's not good enough. You're just waiting. You don't go find a new spouse before you divorce your current spouse. Now, on that front,
some people do, but you know.
Well, that's true. I will say in the NHL, like teams find their next head coach before they fire their current coach all the time. Like, look, I think Peter Laviolette here was fired. I think it was announced on like a Monday night, and John Hines was here Tuesday morning coaching the team. Do you think that John Hines like negotiated a contract and came to an agreement and flew to Nashville all in the span of about 8 hours? Or were there some conversations that took place before that? You tell me.
Hey, John, it's David Boyle. Oh, hey, can you come here tomorrow and be our coach? Sure.
Just saying, I think things like that happen in the league all the time where coaches get fired and all of a sudden it's like, wow, you guys brought in a replacement very quickly. Happens a lot in this league.
Really important text here. I think it's a great point. But what would Bill Polian do? Need more Polian talk, guys. I apologize. We have not talked enough about Bill Polian. We've got in the 8 o'clock hour, we actually have a segment that's nothing but Bill Polian quotes with between them. Get ready, folks.
My coach must run a 5.4 40 or faster, or I'm not hiring him behind the bench. My hockey coach better run a 5.4.
If he doesn't tie his tie in 7.8 seconds or less, you're out.
Jackson on the text line says, what about Carl Taylor? Why is he never considered?
I can't believe it took this long.
I know. Look, guys, Carl Taylor not only has not been hired by the Predators, but has also not been hired by any other NHL team. So will that happen at some point? Maybe. Will it happen with the Predators? Maybe. But frankly, I don't think Carl Taylor is what this team needs. Like, you have a veteran core right now. You have a top 6 group that's a bunch of 30-some-odd-year-olds, and you've got Jonathan Marchessault and Steven Stamkos talking about like the coaching and what's going on right now. I'm not saying that Carl Taylor couldn't come in and coach them, but I think that they need an NHL coach that is a proven head coach, and Carl Taylor is not that.
Yeah, and like we've talked about, it's if it were a different situation, if they actually were in a rebuild or just were young, and it was a whole bunch of his guys who were the key guys, it would make sense. Frankly, like you've got to impress these guys. Like, you can't fire them. So the moves made in this league are the coaches, and I think it's got to be somebody, if you're moving on from Brunette, somebody who has had success in this league.
I will say there was a story out there the other day, Joe, that a report that apparently Joel Quenneville interviewed for Anaheim. So I guess, we'll see what that situation ends up looking like and what that looks like around the league and if he gets reinstated and all that stuff. But looks like he's at least interviewing for that job.
Somebody was going to do it.
Somebody's going to do it. So we'll see who that ends up being. Again, there's a lot of jobs open right now, 7 jobs open. And could there be more after the first round of the playoffs are done? Like what happens in Vancouver with Rick Tocchet? I mean, you could have, at the end of this, and if the Predators have a job opening too, you'd have 9 or 10 jobs open around the league, which frankly, Joe, is what this league is. There's coaching turnover all the time. So we'll see what happens. We'll keep you updated on the Andrew Brunette front. Take a couple more of your thoughts on that front. Also get back into the Titans coming up next, including a move. Apparently the Titans are on the verge of making with their scouting department. We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Got some tickets to give away to see Shinedown at Bridgestone Arena coming up on Saturday, May the 10th. Be caller number 3, 615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. Caller 3 will win a pair of tickets to see Shinedown at Bridgestone coming up on Saturday, May the 10th. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. We'll be joined by Steve Lehman from News Channel 5 coming up at 8 o'clock. Get his thoughts on the Titans, the NFL draft, Chad Brinker and Mike Borgonzi's press conference yesterday as well. Joe, speaking of the Titans, another move being made by the Titans. PK putting it out there at paulkuharsky.com that the Titans will be hiring Browns Director of Player Personnel, Dan Saggany. And he says, quote, the Titans are expected to hire him, the Cleveland Browns Director of Player Personnel, in a high-level scouting role soon. The move comes as the season for movement on the scouting side of the industry opens up, as contracts typically expire right after the draft / at the start of May. So Joey wondered, when the draft was over, could there be some moves on the player personnel front into the scouting department? And Borgonzi and Brinker did not really want to get into that yesterday, but it looks like those moves are starting now. And Dan Saggany from the Browns coming in, their director of player personnel.
So who's out is the next question, which we can grill PK tomorrow. Or are the Titans going to have so many cooks in the kitchen? It's going to be like the Christmas special of Iron Chef. Absolutely throw. I mean, Amy's spending money, right? I mean, Amy's spending money on people here.
Yeah.
Can we at least acknowledge that? But no, I mean, seriously, I assume then someone would be out.
Well, PK says in his article, per Neil Stratton, the Titans recently parted ways with Director of Scouting A.J. Highsmith after just one season. John Salge finished his 8th season as the team's Director of College Scouting, and Brian Gardner finished his 12th as Director of Pro Scouting. So we'll see what that all ends up shaking out. But Highsmith's out.
And I believe Highsmith was a RAN guy too. I believe that's correct. Again,
I believe so.
Yeah. So, okay. This is when movement happens. And I will say, not that someone coming from another successful organization means anything, Rand Carthon, but Browns have built a good roster. They made one tiny personnel mistake.
One critical error.
But does seem like ownership has a lot to say about their quarterback situations.
Well, I mean, you screwed up the Deshaun Watson part of it so bad that now their strategy, Joe, apparently is just bring in about 12 quarterbacks and hopefully one of them works out.
They love having way too many quarterbacks, almost as much as the Titans love having way too many GMs or former GMs in one building.
Logan says that's what the Titans need, somebody from the Browns. I'm with you. Like, in all seriousness, they put together a pretty good roster. They just have been nuked by their quarterback decision of Deshaun Watson. Like, we talk about Baker Mayfield a lot over the last few months because of, the what's acceptable as the number 1 overall pick stuff. But in all seriousness, like, imagine this version of what Baker is now down in Tampa with the roster that Cleveland's had over the last couple of years. Like, what could that have been?
They'd be really good. They'd be winning 11, 12 games is what they'd be.
Yeah.
Real quick, I just want to address Ethan from Lawrenceburg asking me if I hate Shinedown. I don't even pay attention to what the heck is Shinedown?
Jeez. You're so disrespectful sometimes.
They're not good. You're telling me they're good?
Yeah, I like Shinedown. Light years better than the Beatles. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. Shinedown. Sorry. Anyway.
Pretty good.
Back to the Titans and the Browns. No, seriously, the Browns have built a good roster.
They have. I think it's been overshadowed by the quarterback play, but look, I never want to just root for people to lose their jobs. But as PK points out in that article, it has been a while since the Titans have significantly shaken up their scouting department. And given where their roster is, I would not be surprised if this is the first of several moves that happened with their scouting department. I mean, look, it was never going to happen as soon as Borgonzi took over because of the timing of all of it. Like, you just don't make scouting changes a few months before the draft when all that work has been done. But I am very interested to see like how much turnover there's going to be there on that front.
Yeah, and the NFL is weird in that way, but all that work has been done all through the year, and then you have regime changes, but the personnel people stay through the draft. And I do think the Titans probably haven't had as much turnover as they should. It's funny that both of these franchises now the Preds are actually having changes, and the Titans, of course, have had tons of changes. But in both cases, both franchises have a lot of people who have been here a long time.
Yeah.
Not sure right now that looks great.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it does either. We'll see exactly what this means in terms of how much turnover there is there. And look, this last draft here, I mean, how does this draft of this personnel department that they put together turn out? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what that looks like. A lot of talk about the draft yesterday from Brinker and Borgonzi. And again, we'll have Steve Lehman coming on at 8:00 to get in to some of that as well. But Titans begin making the moves on the scouting side of things, and we'll see how busy that ends up being. As PK points out in his piece at paulkuharski.com, right around this time, end of April, start of May, a lot of the contracts start to expire at that point. So we'll see how much movement there is there. We'll have the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up next. Take your thoughts at 615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. Tune in today to 1025 The Game for Vanderbilt baseball as the Commodores take on Indiana State. Pregame at 5:45, first pitch at 6 o'clock. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at thegamenashville.com. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment, let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
I'd like to think that I've been right about a lot of things.
Are we taping or what are we doing?
No, we're live.
Live. No, we're like to
We're
start
live.
the whole thing over.
And I'm not sure I have ever been more right.
I'm going to come in here. I got 16 hot takes I'm going to go over today. 2 of them are going to be right. The rest of them are going to be wrong. I'll never mention them again.
Take that take and put it in the Sports Radio Take Hall of Fame.
That's illegal, and I'm calling the feds in to shut this down.
And I didn't even mean to be this right. Don't tell me that it doesn't matter.
And over and over and over and over and over again.
It is that time of the day. Time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every morning here on the program. Joe Rexrode, the floor is yours.
Thanks. And Ian, yeah, Sports Take Hall of Fame. I'm not dealing with Jared's BS. I'll deal with him tomorrow on Jared versus Joe as he takes more time out of my day to help his show, which is going to change soon. But we'll deal with that later. I do want to talk today about Shedeur Sanders. So get excited, everybody. Now, the great thing is you don't have to hear my dumb-sounding voice say all of it because Bomani Jones and Kyle Brandt both said it better than I could, and we'll play those in a minute. But let me just say a few words. We need to put the idiotic conspiracy theories to bed for good. They're just embarrassing. You know, one great thing about the NFL is that everyone in this league is falling all over themselves to beat everyone or lose their jobs and be relegated. You know, we don't have team relegation in American sports, but the people in this league are as cutthroat as it gets because they have to be. And then as for the owners and this idea of like collusion, getting together to make a statement about Shedeur Sanders. I mean, do you seriously think these idiots, most of them heirs and heiresses, would honestly do that or could even do that if they wanted to? I mean, it's fantasy land, folks. And then we have the racism aspect of the story. And I do want to say something on that. And I heard callers yesterday on Jared's show while he was talking about his Hall of Fame take, talking about that, bringing it up. And Jared kind of shot it down. You know, he cited like Cam Ward. He's a black man. He was the number 1 pick in the draft. But that's simplistic. I mean, there's more to it than that. I don't want to speak for all the racists, but I feel pretty confident that racists hate Shedeur Sanders and Deion Sanders. Outspoken, flashy, cocky. I mean, insert your favorite racist tropes. That's what we're talking about here. And there has been a heightened sensitivity to Shedeur's situation. If you're racist, you probably can't stand Shedeur. However, and especially at this point where we are now, after all that we found out about this situation, if you can't stand Shedeur / the whole Deion-led approach to this thing, it does not mean you're racist. And I think anybody who looks reasonably and objectively at this situation with all the reporting around it, unless you want to dismiss all of that as spin in the name of the conspiracy, has to be able to figure out that Shedeur Sanders screwed himself badly and that his dad did him 0 favors. I mean, at some point, first of all, at some point, I'd like to be able to clear my throat. How's that? Okay.
Nice job.
At some point, thank you. I would like someone on ESPN, like any of those reporters who are uncovering a lot of this information, to call Stephen A. Smith out and ask him why the hell he doesn't think they have any credibility as reporters, because that's basically what he's saying. Like, I'm not sure Stephen A. Smith has ever said anything more ridiculous than the stuff he said about this. And again, there's some, I think with him, it is personal, but I mean, seriously, that is a big statement in itself. Also, I've just sat here and blabbed a lot, and you've had to hear my dumb-sounding voice while clearing my throat say a lot. Let's hear from Kyle and Bomani. Kyle Brandt, Good Morning Football. Bomani Jones.
Over the weekends, this went from a football story to a drunken media story. It became one of these seismic media rodeos where you can sit there and watch people that you've followed for years say things that you know they don't believe. Or at best, they were saying from some emotional place where they were so unhinged and off the reservation. I mean, I'm hearing things like conspiracy, collusion, What are you talking about? Do you know that video of you saying that to your phone? You know it's going out to the public, right? Aren't you embarrassed? Or are you just that happy to see the engagement being churned out by people clicking on the video of a circus clown screaming conspiracy theories? Do you not think that if one team thought Shedeur Sanders would help them win one more game than the other guy, that they wouldn't immediately draft him? They would. I promise you. These coaches, these GMs are obsessed, desperate, nomadic people who just want to win games and not move their families to another city after they're fired. It has become this whole thing, one of these media events where the public discourse is so off-putting that it makes fans root against Shedeur just because they're so turned off by the way media members are screaming about him. It's sad and it's stupid.
What is very clear to me is that Dion misjudged what kind of leverage his son had. He got bad information. I think his son was operating on the principle that my daddy knows everything, my daddy knows this league, and my daddy says I'm going to be a top 10 pick. So I ain't got to go to all these places. I have had people tell me things about the way the Shedeur carried himself in meetings that he had with teams, and it was poor. It was the way that you behave when you have the leverage, and he wasn't good enough to have that leverage. And again, some of us were telling you that as a talent, there were shortcomings. He didn't have the physical traits that NFL teams look for. We told you this. We did. So stop acting like everybody was so sure that Shedeur was going to go early. And then now the league, they decided to put their thumb on this outspoken black man. You know how disrespectful that is to actual outspoken black men? Like, do you get it? No, that's just not what happened here. They thought they had more flex than they did. They thought the league was more interested in him that they did. They thought these teams were like, hey, they need a quarterback. They're going to take this one. They seen what it is. They ain't going to pass this up, and they passed it up over and over and over and over again. And once again, what did I tell you earlier? If you're not going to play and you're going to be quarterback, people got to like you.
So I thought both of those were very good, much better, much better rants than mine here. But I think like I just wanted to put that to bed. I hope it doesn't keep. It's just, sometimes people have emotional outbursts. Mel Kiper Jr., for example, as you ranted about yesterday, Robbie. I get it.
Anybody checked on him?
But by the way, there's another one of my favorite ones I saw on the text line. Someone was like, clearly Dion paid Mel Kiper to to pump up his son. Mel Kiper, first of all, like me, believes Shedeur Sanders was the best quarterback as a quarterback in this draft. Also was a little too high on him. Also is very emotional about probably kind of looking bad at this point. But I don't know. I think it seems like Mel Kiper, like, we don't hear from him again till like September, right?
See an Aaron Rodgers cave.
Yeah, there you go. It just I hope again, this is emotional stuff in the wake of this. I hope we don't continue with this. Like, anyone reasonable who thinks that there's some comment by the NFL, some collusion, or again, even like this idea of like, well, they're worried about the NIL era, and so they're getting together. Dude, teams didn't think he was a starter, or the teams that would have drafted a starter didn't think he was that good. And then I think the key point, do you want him as a backup? I think that's, of all the interview stuff, that's where it's like, boy, if we're not looking at you as our guy, I don't want all that stuff coming to me if you're just our backup. Why do we want all this circus around a backup quarterback? It's not worth it. So I still think he's going to be a good player at some point. He's going to get a chance. I think he's going to start games for Cleveland this season, and I think he's going to show people that he can play, and hopefully this has humbled him. But this story is about him and them being his family screwing the whole thing up.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Steve Lehman from News Channel 5 will be with us coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on the Titans draft, press conference yesterday with Borgonzi and Brinker. All that and more coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning. And we head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in our friend Steve Lehman from News Channel 5. Steve, good morning. How are you?
Gentlemen, good morning. I'm great. And I want to commend Joe on the Rex rant just now because I think it was spot on. I've never been at an event like I was at the draft last week where the discourse on the television was so totally and completely separate and different than what was going on backstage. Every pick, it was like, I can't believe Shedur's not been drafted yet on national television. And backstage, everybody was sitting there thinking, I don't see a path for him to get drafted until like X pick. And I think there was a real disservice done here because, number one, he was not in the running to be the number one pick, at least within like the last 6 weeks leading up to the draft. He was not really in the running to be in the top 5. I'm not sure he's in the running to be in the top 10. He was a bottom of the first round, maybe second round pick. And there are only so many landing spots in that place. And then once he didn't land at one of those places, and the noise, frankly, went up as much as it did. Joe, you're exactly right. Then the calculus comes in, hey, if he's not going to be our starter, do we want to invite every media network in the Western Hemisphere into our training facility for off-season workouts and training camp to talk about Shedeur Sanders and why he should be our quarterback? And I think most teams decided that was too much baggage to bring on for that role. And so that's why you see the slide all the way into the 5th round. But this, to me, is one of the most overblown stories we've ever seen in sports.
Steve, I thought Mel Kiper's going to fight somebody this weekend. He's fired up out there.
I thought he was going to fight Reese Davis.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's insane because Reese Davis is one of the most level-headed people you will find in the media. And even he had enough of the Mel Kiper show when it came to Shedeur Sanders.
So, Steve, Cam Ward to the Titans, the worst-kept secret in America over the last few weeks. Now that he's here, what do you make of the situation he's walking into, the offense, where things currently stand with the roster? What's your view on kind of the situation that Cam Ward now finds himself in?
Well, he's not walking into a great roster, that's for sure, Robby. But I do think it's a good situation in the sense that I think the Titans are all in on what they're doing right now. Now, will that last beyond this season or how long it will go? I don't know. But at least for right now, he's got a coach that is trying to build an offense for him. They're trying to put people around him offensively, whether that be up front to block for him, bringing in 3 wide receivers in the draft, adding a veteran like Tyler Lockett to go along with Calvin Ridley, getting another pass catcher like Gunnar Helm at tight end. They're trying to find guys that can make his job easier for him. And I just like his demeanor. I'm not sure if he's the best quarterback prospect in recent memory. In fact, I'm pretty sure he's not. But he's a good quarterback that's gotten better every year that he's played, at least at the college level. Now he goes up another step, and he just seems to have the right mindset. I talked to him before the draft in Green Bay. I talked to him immediately after he was drafted in Green Bay, and you did not notice a real difference. Yes, there was a grateful element and an excited element about the biggest night of his life. But throughout the entire time, you just saw a guy that was focused on playing ball. He wants to be known for being a quarterback. He wants to be known for being a great teammate. He wants to be known for winning games in the National Football League. That's what the Titans want, and that's what Cam Ward wants to be. And I think that is a very good cultural fit.
Yeah, and I've been nothing but impressed with him too, Steve, in terms of the way he's gone about his business, and obviously the talent is there. We're going to see if he can put it all together. When it comes to that, how do you look at Brian Callahan and how the Titans should view him? I mean, I think we all assume, or at least I know we do on this show, that if there's whoever is next on the chopping block is probably Brian Callahan. If things go poorly this year, I guess you just never know how to predict what Amy Adams Strunk will do. But do you think the Titans do and should look at this like Brian Callahan next 2 years, work with him, unless it's a complete disaster, and not have to do, what the Bears just did with Caleb Williams, which might work out for them, but still not ideal to immediately switch things up on a rookie QB.
Yeah, well, history tells you, Joe, that what the Bears just did is the more likely scenario for a team that drafts number one overall. Only like in the last 15 years or something like that, only I think 2 coaches that have drafted number one overall have survived through the following season. And one of those is Zach Taylor with Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. So it shows the importance of getting that pick right. And so I think the big thing that you have to look at this year is what is Cam Ward's level of improvement? What is his level of performance this year? Because if he looks like the guy, if you get into November and December of this coming year, no matter what the record is, if the Titans are competitive and Cam Ward looks like the franchise quarterback that they believe he is, I think Brian Callahan will get another shot to come back and continue to grow that and grow this franchise. If he doesn't, or if he struggles, or heaven forbid he's not in the lineup in November and December, I think he's probably out. It's that important of a season for Brian Callahan. As much as they liked him a year ago, that was not a good season. And some of it goes on the coaching staff for how they manage personalities, how they manage the team, the lack of development throughout the season. Some of that comes right back to the staff, and the buck ultimately stops with Brian Callahan. And so, while I don't think his seat is hot yet, just the reality is you don't get that long in this league. And if he has a second straight stinker of a season, he's going to be in trouble at the end of it. And ultimately, I think what you saw last year, guys, is going into the season, they thought Will Levis could be the guy at quarterback. And they thought Brian Callahan was the right guy to get him there. That obviously didn't happen. And so at the end of the season, the calculus was, all right, Will wasn't the guy after all. We still think Brian can get there, but we don't know anymore. And so Will is now the odd man out of the rotation, though he is still on the roster. That's somewhat interesting as well. But now when Cam comes in, it's really the pressure on Callahan and the staff to get the most out of Cam Ward. If they do it, they'll say, look, okay, we were right in the first place about our evaluation of this young, up-and-coming, offensive-minded head coach. If he can't do it, he's going to be the next guy on the chopping block.
So, Steve, Chad Brinker, Mike Borgonzi spoke yesterday, and, you know, obviously we've talked a lot about the structure and the way things are set up over there. It's very interesting. What do you make of what they've done to this point in the offseason with the roster and the approach that they're trying to take here with bringing in guys that have for the most part, shown a history of being pretty healthy and being durable in this league, and kind of the patient approach that Chad Brinker keeps trotting out there that I still have my questions as to whether or not the owner will actually follow through with?
Yeah, great question about the owner there at the end. I think when I look at the offseason, while you can't give them a final grade because you're going to have to see how these guys actually pan out on the field to do that, I was really impressed at how they executed their spoken plan. We have struggled over the last few years to decipher the messaging of what the plan actually has been with the hierarchy over there that you mentioned. I think from the moment Mike Borgonzi was brought in as general manager, they said a couple things. They said, we're not going to do the big splashes in free agency this year. We're going to find guys that fit our culture and fit certain needs where we have to have a veteran presence. And then when they got into the draft, they obviously had certain needs at positions. But the other thing that they spoke about was we really need to increase our draft capital. We need more assets for these drafts. They talked about getting 30 picks over 3 years and 12 picks in the top 3 rounds. And what did they end up doing over the weekend, guys? They went from having 5 draft picks in this draft last weekend at the beginning of last season to picking 9 guys last weekend, 6 of them in the top 4 rounds. They picked up a 3rd-round pick with that trade on Friday night, so they got 3 in the first 2 days after only having 2. They added a pick even within the weekend, and they didn't have to give up anything for it. It was a straight pick swap as they moved up into the 4th round to get Alec Iomener. And I was really impressed with how they went about their business in this offseason. Now, was it good enough? Did they turn the roster from one of the worst in the league to a top 10 roster, a a playoff contender. I'm not sure they did that. But in terms of what they were trying to do, the pieces they needed to acquire just to upgrade the roster, and the way they executed their draft plan and offseason plan, I think they did a really good job.
Now, I will say that the lofty top 100 pick bar that Chad Brinker set probably only happens if they trade the number 1 pick. I mean, we'll see what happens in future years. And obviously they had a really good offer from the Giants, but if you believe in Cam Ward that much, then you do what they did. And that you touched on it, Steve. I was going to ask you, in particular, this draft. I've warmed to the idea of, for example, like a Winston from Penn State. You know, if he can get back healthy, you watch him, you read about him. You know, that could end up being a really good value pick. But how many of these guys in this draft do you think are going to be, impact players for this team next season?
That is a really good question. And I don't know if they drafted them all, Joe, with that exactly in mind, because I do think at least the guys drafting, more so than the head coach, believe that they do have the element of time a bit as they try to build this and don't have to take an immediate shortcut. So to some degree, I think they're okay with having guys that need to be developed within their prospects and within the draft picks that they just got. But when you look at it, I don't see any way Cam Ward's not the starter at the beginning of the season. So he's going to have the opportunity to not just win the job, but ultimately lose the job or cement himself in that place. I think Oluwafemi Oladejo, when you get drafted in the second round on a team that just got rid of arguably its best pass rusher in Harold Landry, you're going to have to play. And so he's a bit of a project. He's only played half a season basically on the edge, but he's going to have to play next year. And we'll find out pretty quickly if there is promise in that pick or if this really is a long-term project. I really like the Kevin Winston pick because he is a guy that, if healthy and right, I think can be an immediate impact player in the NFL. He would have been a borderline first-round pick or at the very top of the second round if he never got hurt. And so I think, kind of like the Titans found in Jeffrey Simmons back in 2019, they got a guy at a position in the draft that they would have never been able to get him if it wasn't for the injury. So I think there's really good value there. And then all those pass catchers in the fourth round, you're going to see them on the field. Now, what the role is going to be exactly, that's going to have to work itself out in the offseason. But Chimere DK, with the size and the speed, he's going to have to find a way onto the field. Gunnar Helm is going to have to be part of the pass-catching rotation at tight end. And I think long-term he can be the tight end for this franchise. And then you talk about I mean, he's a guy that could be an elite weapon in this league. Consistency is a concern, but if he can just put it all together, you've got a guy who can be a really good wide receiver with all the traits that you're looking for. And so I think those 6 picks in the top 4 rounds all give themselves opportunity to really factor in what the Titans are doing this year. The other guys, I think, are very specific roles. Slater's a backup offensive lineman that can play every position. That's valuable on an O-line that doesn't have much depth right now. And then I think Harris is going to be a key special teams player immediately and probably be up and in that mix to be a 4th or a 5th cornerback. And Mullings, he's a very specific back that gives you the change of pace and short yardage or maybe end game as you're running out the clock compared to a Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. We'll see how those guys grow into it. But that's kind of the way I look at it. I see the top 6 guys or the top 4th round guys as all guys that should have roles on this team next year. And then the bottom guys that will be very specific into certain packages or certain situations that the team might use.
Steve, great stuff, man. Really appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning, and we will talk to you soon, my friend.
Okay, it's always fun, guys. Have a good one.
Steve Lehman from News Channel 5, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. We'll react to what Steve had to say coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
A lot of these draft picks were captains, leaders on their team. Was that not by accident, I'm assuming? How much you hoping they can help change the culture around here?
Yeah, I mean, like we said, those are the type of people we're trying to bring in here. High character people. You know, some of them were captains on teams, but that helps elevate the culture in here. When those people come in here and they work, there's a standard that we want to set here in this organization in terms of work ethic, accountability, you know, being a good teammate, and all those guys check the box there. And I think, you know, you look back to some of the free agents we brought in too. Like I said, if you keep on stacking those type of players in the locker room, that's going to change the culture.
That was Mike Borgonzi yesterday. Taking your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025, our phone number. Appreciate Steve Lehman from News Channel 5 for being with us in the last segment. Let's head to our 1025 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll check in with Joseph, who has been waiting patiently. Joseph, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Hi. Yes, I was calling. First off, I want to say I think a lot of what Steve had to say was spot on. I just disagree at the very beginning. The first round is the only round that I had an issue with personally.
Joseph, I think we lost you there for a second.
From Seattle, and we've got Calvin Ridley. They're 32 and 30 years old. I just think looking back at the Titans' history, when we had A.J. Brown, he can make a very mediocre quarterback look phenomenal. And even if you don't think Will Levis is the future, I think Travis Hunter could have been a superstar for the Titans for the next decade, 15 years potentially, if he only played one way. And I think not taking that opportunity, because next year is going to be another quarterback-heavy draft. So securing your future now for the next 10 years you could get a quarterback next year. We didn't need a quarterback this year if we would have gotten a superstar.
Thanks for calling, Joseph. Appreciate it. I think, Joe, then it becomes to it's one thing you brought over these options the other day. It's one thing to take Travis Hunter. Like if they passed on Cam Ward this year, I probably would have said take the Giants draft haul that they were offering, not just take Travis Hunter at number one. That's just me. I know you probably disagree with that, but if they weren't going to take Cam Ward at number one, I would have said take the haul that the Giants offered, which would have meant you also don't end up with Travis Hunter, and you would have probably ended up with Abdul Carter. Joe's first mute of the day. It's a long mute.
I hate this. This new mute thing is really annoying with the thing in the middle, and I can't find it. And yeah. And now I've forgotten. Tell me what you just said, Robbie.
I said I would have taken the Giants draft haul. You boomer.
Yeah. Oh my God. You know, I don't know. Have I declared that I would definitely take Hunter instead of the Giants draft haul?
I don't think you said that. You just love Travis Hunter. I know that.
That is a tough one, man. I think I might take the God, I don't know.
I think I got to choose now. You got to pick one.
I'll go draft haul. As much as I love Travis Hunter, to me, it's like then you're gonna have two high first next year to really do something with, and it's now I'm already seeing the mocks. We will get into this week, Robbie. I'm already seeing all the mocks that have Arch Manning number one. Okay, we'll see, but regardless. And Kaharski's already declared next year's a better QB draft, even though all of the possible QBs in next year's first round have to make steps, in my mind, to make that come true. Steps that they can make. I would guess right now that next year's QB class will be better than this one. So you have two high firsts next year, and you add to this year's crop of picks. Yeah, I would have taken that just by a hair over Travis Hunter. But they took door number 3.
They did. They took door number 3, and we'll see what that looks like on the Cam Ward front. Like, I agree with Steve from this standpoint of everything. We've talked about this. The most important thing with Cam Ward is how he plays on the field, but he does have a lot of qualities, just like watching him interact with people and some of the things that he said that I think are important to being a good quarterback in this league. Like, I think, number one, he's got a ton of confidence, and I think that's a good thing. He's got an ability to connect with people, I think, pretty clearly, which also you need at the quarterback spot. Now, nobody's going to care about that if he comes out and score and throws, 18 interceptions every year. I understand that, but I'm just saying there's a lot that I like about him that I think could be factors in him being a good quarterback in the National Football League. Ultimately, you got to put it together, like that mental and physical package. And I talked about his processing ability earlier, which I like, and hopefully that translates to the NFL level. But there's a lot about him kind of for some of that separate stuff that I think teams, and specifically the Titans, were really impressed by, which is part of why he got drafted where he got drafted.
Right. Look, the What Are You Doings have had their day, and they have, I mean, they've got legit beef, but it's time to just join the Cam Doos. I mean, you may as well get excited about this guy. He's your guy, and I'm excited to watch it, and it absolutely could work out. If it all comes together, it could be really good.
615-737-1025.
You're welcome.
Our phone number, 615-737-1025. I'm not even going to address that. We'll take more of your thoughts on the Titans.
It's never going to stop.
Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. This week's Nashville's best deal is Prince's Hot Chicken, the original and iconic hot chicken joint. For a limited time, grab half off a $25 gift card at thegamenashville.com/deals. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home with a $99 yearly Beehive membership with a buzz is always about great service. Robert in Nashville on the text line says, if we could have gotten the Giants haul they offered and still walked away with Abdul Carter, would have been a slam dunk win. Instead, next year in a quarterback heavy draft, we're going to have teams fighting over our top 3 draft pick, and we can restock things that way, I guess. And that is a good point. I mean, let's see, if this season goes the way we think it might, which is the Titans, again, not being very good, you're going to have a high draft pick next year. And if teams are fighting over a quarterback, Joe, you can leverage that next year. So there are other pathways to land some more draft picks as they move forward here to try to restock this roster.
Yes. Now, imagine signing a veteran who you like to be your quarterback, investing wisely there, trading out, having these picks, then having 2 picks next year. So you have the season of the veteran quarterback. You see where it looks like, I mean, Darnold would have been my choice. See how it looks. You don't like it, you can address it. If you do, you've just gotten those picks, and now next year you can go nuts. I mean, that's fast forwarding a rebuild. Now, again, that's also, different thing with quarterback. And I know people love the top pick quarterback and the unknown is undefeated and everybody's excited and Cam Ward might be great. Will Cam Ward have a season like Sam Darnold had last year, Robby, ever in his career?
I mean, if I'm going by the odds would say no.
I know people are excited that I brought up Sam Darnold again, but I'm just saying that way, then all of a sudden you're also probably winning more this year,
Right.
Like those steps get you, to me, to a better place. But look, I have no indication that the Titans even really considered him. So that's how it goes.
I'm looking at the win total. I brought it up earlier in the show on FanDuel Sportsbook that the projected win totals for the Titans, the over-unders at 5.5. I wondered, is that the lowest in the league? And it is the lowest in the league. Now, it's tied with 3 other teams. Joe, can you guess the 3 teams at the moment on the FanDuel Sportsbook that are tied with the Titans at 5.5 wins as their over-under?
Well, let's see. I mean, you always immediately go to the New York teams.
Ding ding.
So I'm going to go both of them, and then yeah. How about the Browns are still too good on defense. How about the Saints?
It's the Browns.
Okay,
there you go.
It is the Browns.
The Saints, I believe, are 6.5. So just one bit of difference there. One win.
Speaking of the Saints, real quick, Brugler's got the 2026 mock. And Brugler, I'll just give you the first one.
Oh boy.
New Orleans Saints. Arch Manning, baby. Finally, the Saints draft a quarterback in the first round for the first time since Archie in 1971. Now, that is poetry.
Yeah, that is poetry. And again, do people watch the way that family operates? He is not coming out next year. I will be very surprised if he comes out and declares for the NFL draft after this year.
I mean, I think if he's like so good that he's like a Heisman finalist, like he's great this year, maybe they say, okay, he's been in the, I mean, there is the injury thing here. Like he's done or what they win it all, right? Or something like that. I could see it, but I think definitely the presumption that he's definitely coming out is not smart. Also, man, I mean, I go on and on about this, but we saw Quinn Ewers play this year, right? I mean, we saw what happened to him in the draft. He did go at the very end to the Dolphins. It's not like Arch Manning was like mandated by the family to sit this year. He could have started this year. And in the Georgia game where they got punked, Steve Sarkisian finally said, oh my God, all right, Arch, let's give you a try. Because Quinn was, and then Arch it was like, nope, we got to go back to Quinn. Again, he may end up being great. He may end up putting it all together. But this idea, and I'm going to Brugler, anybody out there who's so convinced of it, like it's a sure thing, to me, you're setting a kid up for failure in such a big way.
Well, although it's good if that's what happens and he comes out next year and he's good enough in college football where he's ready to go in the NFL, that's good for the Titans, right? Like you need as many high-level quarterbacks. Number one, that's when we'll probably revisit the conversation, depending on what Cam Ward does. Like if Ward's great this year, nobody's going to care. If he's not very good this year, you're going to get back into they should have waited a year. They should have waited. They should have taken the draft haul from the Giants and then drafted a quarterback this year. But let's say Cam Ward is pretty good, has his moments throughout the year, and you look at the Titans roster and it's just like, well, yeah, this is just not very good. They win 5 games. And they're picking 3rd or 4th in the draft next year. That's a good spot to be in if there's a lot of quarterbacks that are going to go high. You can trade back and get some picks that way. So I understand, like we talked a lot about Brinker and what he talked about picking up those top 100 picks. And they didn't really do that this year. They did move back in the second round and pick up an extra one. But you're looking for more of that as you're trying to rebuild the roster. You can see a path where that could happen this year if things go the Titans' way.
Well, if things go the Titans' way, that they're total buns.
Well, yeah,
that's part. That's
I'm just
part
saying draft-wise, if things go the way,
Yes.
like quarterbacks coming out, not the on-the-field results.
No doubt. But that's the thing. Yeah, it's both things. It's like, I think there's a good chance of that. And yes, I mean, the Titans obviously need to be high enough in the draft, which they have a great chance to be.
They do.
So, by the way, so there are 5 QBs in this mock. And there is another one at number 2. I'd like you to guess the number 2.
The number 2 quarterback?
Yeah, the number 2 pick in the draft in the Brugler mock. And it's a quarterback. Who's your guess?
Drew Aller.
Lenoris Sellers, which someone on the text line is saying he'll be the number 1 pick if he comes out, book it.
He's really good.
I like him a lot. He's got, I mean, honestly, like right now, if you make me bet on like Sellers or Arch Manning, I'm putting everything on Sellers because I've seen him play and he's really good. I don't know if he's going to be number 1 pick good, but I could see it. Arch, I mean, everybody's going to put him number 1, and okay.
Where's he got Nico?
We'll see.
Nico's not number 2?
He is not. He is not in. He does not appear in the first round.
Joey Aguilar, is he in there?
Probably not.
Okay. Check him.
It's worth a question. Actually, okay. Since you say that though, the 5th QB you will never in your life guess, and I'll even tell you that he's a Big Ten quarterback. You'll never guess.
Oh,
so now that could be Nico, but it's not Nico.
I was about to say I'm trying to keep track of who's in the Big Ten now.
Exactly.
The Illinois kid, whose name currently eludes me.
Fernando Mendoza from Indiana.
You could have given me 1,000 guesses. Would have never got it.
Cal transfer. How about that as a first rounder? That's one I did not see coming.
What do you know about Ray Finkel?
Yeah, I would have never guessed that one. But hey, get all these. You need quarterbacks to have a great year in college football, and then if you're the Titans, use that as some trade currency. Or I mean, I guess if that happens, Joe, regardless of what Cam Ward does this year, barring him being some superstar, we'll have Titans fans texting in next year. Oh, Cam's good, but let's go get Arch Manning. Cam can be the backup. You trade Cam.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, man. I mean, it's gonna be it's gonna be fascinating. I think there's a lot of over projecting there, but yeah, if you're a Titans fan, one thing next year in the college game is root for those QBs to be Aller. Root for all those guys to be amazing. Put Nussmeier at LSU to have amazing seasons because it should help your team.
Got more thoughts to get to on the Titans front on our text line. We'll do that. Coming up next, 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Join 1025 The Game live on location as DVD broadcasts from Ascent Building's hiring event tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. in Portland at 214 Fountainhead Road. Hiring fair runs from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., and there will be food trucks during the lunch hour. More details at thegamenashville.com/events. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063 The Game. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Joe got one texter on the text line, says, so if Callahan wins 6 games, he's not only doubled his win total, but he's also exceeded his season projection. How exciting for fans. Got a YouTube chatter that says, Titans over-under is 5.5, so if he hits 6 wins, is that a success for Callahan? Oh, could be an exciting season out there for Titans fans.
Well, look, I said this earlier this week. They could go 6-11, and Callahan could be in great shape. They go 6-11. Cam Ward looks great. It looks like he's got a QB developer developing him. Other parts of the team continue to be buns. The defense is bad, whatever. I mean, there's plenty of pathways to 6 wins, and Callahan's fine, in my opinion. I mean, if Cam Ward's really good and they don't win a lot, to me, that's still that's a positive development for the Tennessee Titans. I mean, it's so much of this it's about Cam now.
Well, then it's also about how much do you believe that the owner will sit back and not meddle. That's the other thing. We brought that up with Lehman. Clearly Brinker and Borgonzi are taking the patient approach here, right? Like they've talked about that. And that sounds good, especially given what's going on around here the last few years. Will that when that gets put in practice, how long does that last? Like, somebody was joking about this earlier, but I mean it's worth bringing up. Like, what happens if week 7 goes by and they're 2-5, and they Vrabel comes in here and they just get blasted by the Patriots? What happens at that point? I don't know. Like,
whole organization's fired.
Yeah, just like it's one thing to be patient.
The office is
in
empty the next day.
Right. Like it's one thing to be patient in April, but I've reached the point with Amy Adams Strunk that I need to see her follow through with this before I totally buy into it, right? I mean, there's just been so much turnover and so much, she's in on Vrabel and then she's very quickly out on Vrabel. She's in on J-Rob, she's out on J-Rod. She's all in on Ram, and then she's very quickly all out on Ram. Like, I've seen too much of that over the last few years to be totally convinced that now all of a sudden she's just going to throw her hands back and be like, all right, you guys got all the time in the world. We'll see you here in 2 or 3 years and see if you guys are any good.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing. How does she look at like, to me, it's got to be at this point now that we're close enough to it. I think we were not close enough to it. A couple of years ago, people were talking about this stuff, but now I think you want a star QB heading into your new stadium. Now, it doesn't mean that another coach couldn't have success with Cam Ward, but if Brian Callahan does have success with him on an individual basis, does that not outweigh a bad win-loss record when we all know this team is terrible? It should, I think.
I think you've got to change your viewpoint on how you're judging Brian Callahan. Like, look, full disclosure, I did not love the idea of moving on from Rand Carthon and leaving Brian Callahan in place after last year. I thought you should have just ripped the Band-Aid off, and if you were going to fire Carthon, you should have just gone ahead and fired Callahan and brought in the next regime together. They didn't do that, so it is what it is. Having said that, like, now that you've drafted the quarterback, like, that's got to change how you view this, I think. Like, it's not just as simple as wins and losses. Unless you're convinced at the end of next season that Callahan just doesn't know what he's doing, which if you are, you have to make a move at that point. But if you're not, and Cam Ward's making progress, the last thing you want to do is just pull the ripcord out from under him and totally start things over again with a new system, unless you have to.
Yes, but any skepticism that they will look at it the other way is very warranted. By the way, Texter says half of Vrabel's team will be on IR by week 5. I can't wait till Vrabel hate week, man. Vrabel hate week's gonna be fun around here.
I mean, it's gonna be fun. I will say, like, I think the schedule release and like the hype around it in the NFL is one of the dumber things in sports. Like, it always drives me nuts. It's like, just put the freaking schedule out there and let's go. I am interested to see when the Titans play the Patriots. I'm pulling for season opener. I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm pulling for season opener.
That has to be. I mean, the Titans are probably going to get like one primetime game, and I hope it's more than just a Thursday. But like, if whatever primetime game they get, that has to be it, right?
I hope so. Don't subject
need
us
the-
to,
all of the league.
Titans, Colts, and Daniel Jones running around out there on prime time. Country doesn't need that.
If the entire league has to watch the Titans play, let it be against Vrabel.
I agree. That's going to do it for us today here on the program. We'll be back 6 a.m. tomorrow. Hope everybody has a great rest of their day. Chasing Big Joe coming up next. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3 The Game.